I'm your host, AShira Nelson, and this is Forum 360, where we have a global outlook from a local view. My guest today is Perry Osbey. Perry is the founder and host of Follow Suit Podcast. Perry's podcast is centered around the purity of the Black community. Follow Suit features a true insight and opinions of the Black culture from everyday individuals. Perry is a rising philanthropist and owner of a community impact program entitled HOOD, which stands for Hold On to Our Dreams, which is designed to increase the education and job opportunities for the youth. He created this platform to discuss topics such as relationships, social issues, building businesses, sports, and many more. As of July 2021, there are over 2 million podcasts and over 48 million episodes. Today, Perry is going to share with us his podcast and tips on how to start our very own. Hey, Perry.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing awesome. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. Feels
Yes.
good to be here with you.
Awesome. So, with our limited time, I like to just jump into it. First, find out more about you and then the podcast. So, let's get started. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, with me, once again, I'm just a local kid from Maple Heights, Ohio.
Okay.
Been there my whole life. I started doing a podcast in December of 2020. You know, I have 2 kids. I'm married, so just trying to grow.
So what was your life before podcasting?
Before podcasting, I was always just kind of working. I played sports growing up.
Okay.
Real big, close relationship with my family and my siblings. You know, just a family man.
Okay, I could definitely relate. I come from a huge family too, and that whole family dynamic is super important.
Yeah.
So how did you become a podcaster?
Well, I've always kind of I did music for a long time since I was like 11 years old. But back in 2019, my uncle passed away. He took his own life. And
I'm sorry about that.
Thank you. And he seemed like somebody who had it all. And, you know, I wanted to create something that was genuine to where nobody ever had to feel like they were alone in whatever problems they may have.
Okay. So how did you decide what your podcast was going to be centered around?
Well, it took me some time. So at first, I was rolling out the idea and I was going to do like sports and things like that. But then I just looked at things that people take, like to lean towards on social media and stuff that was important to people. And they didn't need another sports podcast. I wanted to show like our true element. That's what I wanted to do.
I like that because, you know, it's easy for a guy to gravitate towards sports or you came from a music background. So that would have just been your natural. But sometimes we grow outside our comfort zone. So I love that you centered around something that's not typical or what someone would expect from you. So nice. So how did you go about creating your podcast? Tell us some steps, like some behind the scenes type of stuff.
So it was crazy because me and my friends got together at first and we were it was January 26th of 2020.
Okay.
I'll never forget.
2020.
I'll never forget because it's the day Kobe Bryant died. And we were together talking about what we should do, this and that. And then we got the message that he passed. And I they were all focused on one thing. And I was like, yeah, but that's going to exclude women. And I wanted like everybody to feel related into it.
Okay.
So that was kind of like how it got, the idea got sparked.
Okay. So what are some of the first things you did to get started with the podcast?
The first thing I did was I looked at other ones that I wanted to kind of be similar to and think about how I can separate myself. Like a lot of podcasts, they don't have visuals. It's just usually all audio. So I wanted to make mine different. And I got a cameraman, and I wanted to make every episode live, not live, but a recorded, episode.
Why was that live visual aspect so important for you?
Because I feel like people will appreciate you more when they can see the person talking and see the guest that's on the show. I don't have like celebrity guests. I get the common everyday person to talk about common problems. So.
Okay, so where can we see like your actual visuals and things like that?
Yeah, so it's all over YouTube. I signed a streaming deal with Black Oak TV. So it's a Black-owned media company. They used to be affiliated with YouTube. They still have a YouTube channel. So my stuff is on their YouTube page as well as their own separate streaming network.
Okay, so how did you work out that deal? Because that's nice.
Yeah, thank you. I reached out to them via social media. I do my research, so
Oh, nice.
I Google
Let's get
companies.
into that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I Google companies. I look them up, look and see what they're doing, get a feel for it, and then I kind of I tag them in things, or I'll send them things, and the quality is there.
Okay.
The content is there.
I can definitely attest to that.
So I feel like we just need an opportunity to be seen. It's never really that we're not wanted or we're not good enough. I just feel like people in our community never get a chance to be seen, and I wanted to create that opportunity.
Very nice. So someone wanting to embark on any type of new journey, you recommend just reaching out and kind of take your shot?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if you don't reach out, you're not going to get the business anyway. So if they tell you no, it's the same thing. You never had the business at all. So I just, middle of the night, I had to tell my wife, like, hey, listen, I'm about to send some messages.
Okay.
So it'll be like 3 in the morning. I'll just scroll through about 40 accounts, send them all the same message, and attach my document to it. Go to sleep and let the Lord work.
Exactly. I like that. Okay. So you did your research to see how other podcasts similar to what you wanted were like. You set up your visuals. What was next for you?
So next, I reached out to local podcasts that I knew to see what they use to publish their podcast. Because some people, it's one thing if you have it and you're like, hey, check me out. People aren't going to click your links and go to your YouTube. So I needed to find a way to get it published.
Okay.
And I reached out to my friend Maria from the Boss Code. She has a podcast as well.
Yes.
And she gave me the information and told me to go through Podbean. And Podbean publishes it everywhere. Similar to like if you go through a streaming network for like getting your music on Apple Music and all of that stuff.
Okay. Oh, okay. So Podbean, do they distribute to all the different platforms or just on Podbean?
No, they distribute to all platforms. So by creating an account with them and paying the fee, they distribute to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the different podcast networks. Okay,
so can you decide which ones you want to kind of distribute to, or is it best to just do it to all?
If you don't want it on certain ones, you can choose, but I don't see the point in limiting yourself, so I just select it all.
Okay, very nice. You discussed editing. So do you do your own editing for your episodes?
Yes, unfortunately, I do. It's time consuming. I'm one of those people who like to just show up, be good at what I'm good at.
Yes.
But also, I like to edit it because I can control, how it looks or stuff I don't like. But typically, we don't take anything out of the episode. I just like to make sure it's clean, like, the start point that I wanted at and ends how I want it to end.
Very nice. Oh, that's a good tip. Okay. Any other tips for editing? Like, what type of software do you use?
So for that, it's just like a typical video editor that comes with you. If you have a HP or Dell computer, typical video editor that comes with that. And then I honestly just Google like free apps I can download and transport, like if I want to convert my video to to audio and do it that way. Okay,
so you record your episode, then you kind of remove the video aspect or take out the audio and produce it or publish it to the different platforms.
Yep.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, and it's a lot of other ways you can go about doing it, but I just prefer to do it that way to make sure I have a good hand on what I'm putting out. Okay.
So how do you balance that with, because I know you have a wife and you have a kid. Congratulations on having your new baby.
Thank you. Yeah, she almost got me. I'm wearing all black. She almost spit up on me this morning, but yeah.
So how are you balancing everything with your full-time job and your job as a podcaster?
Well, so my wife is very supportive, and she's actually a part of the Follow Suit
team
brand. Yeah, she's my brand strategist and all of that.
Very nice.
So I pick a day and I'll say, hey, on this day I'm going to record, and I'll let her know. And then, I'll either get my mom to watch the kids or she'll watch the kids. We'll just work it out. With work, my job is very flexible. Same times every day I work. I can come in late if need to be. My manager is very understanding. So it's a good balance because it's something I'm passionate about. I'm not out, spending long hours. It's 2 hours, record and get out of there.
Do you feel like people need to have like some type of level of experience before jumping into podcasting?
No, I think you just have a plan. You need to have a plan or like content. I didn't have experience before I did it.
How did you decide on your name, Follow Suit?
That's funny because when if you pay attention to the show, I wanted to capture us in our truest form.
Yes.
And most conversations in the Black culture is at a card table. So my idea was to play cards while shooting episodes,
Okay.
but when I did my trial runs,
Yeah.
it was kind of hard to do that and pay attention. So I was thinking of how I can tie names in with cards. So that's how I came up with Follow Suit. And then I wanted to make
Very
it have
creative.
a meaning. Yeah.
Okay. How do you decide on content?
So I pretty much I just look at what's going on in the world.
Okay.
And depending on the guests I have. So like when I had you come on the show, I know what you're into, I know what you stand for.
Oh,
so,
you do your research on your different guests. Okay.
Now I don't always just have questions laid out.
Okay.
I'll have an opening question and then I let the conversation just
flow.
Yeah, just flow.
I like that. How do you decide how long each episode is going to be?
Well, my goal is always to have it at like an hour.
Okay.
Sometimes it goes over depending who's on there. Like I had some real close friends on and
Yeah.
conversation got carried away. So
Okay.
yeah,
How long was that episode?
about an hour and 25 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not too
Not crazy.
bad.
I'm doing one on Saturday before I move
Okay.
with my brothers and uncles, and it's going to be outside, so that may go a little longer.
Okay. So what are some tips your wife, the brand strategist on your team, what are some tips she give you in order to market your podcast?
That's what she always told me, to make sure I have a clean look with everything that I
Okay.
do. So don't just post, like I got to take full advantage of every single post that I make.
Okay.
So before I would have posts like you might see a random picture of me doing whatever, but now she's like everything has to make sense when you're posting. It doesn't have to be necessarily that I'm doing something podcast related.
Yes.
It just has to be something clean and it looks like, okay, he's always doing something. So
I
that's kinda
love
what I try to
that.
do.
I mean, first of all, having a brand strategist on your team is so key. But then having one as your wife.
Yeah, it's crazy because it changed my whole level of everything that I do. My professionalism, when I reach out to people out the gate now, they respect me initially because my logo looks good. And then when I reach out to sponsors, I'll send she created a deck for me, which shows like all of my accomplishments so far, what I do, what we stand for. So when I send it to like sponsors, they'll take me more serious because I have this well done up document.
Very nice. Very, very nice. So professional.
I try to be.
So any tips for someone else who's trying to decide on their podcast name?
On their podcast name, I would just think about what you want to focus on. So like if your show is going to be centered around mental health, think about something that's going to stick mental health wise that can tie into that, something that people can relate to.
Okay.
You don't want to be changing your name
Yeah.
a lot of times. You want something that they can identify it. Oh, Follow Suit, okay, that's Perry. Okay, we know that that's Perry. So that's kind of how I want to do it.
I like that. Do you think like a logo and branding is important when developing a podcast?
It's important when developing anything.
Okay.
I've learned that the hard way.
Okay. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so in the past when I tried to do music and stuff and I'll have something sent out, it looks messy. It doesn't look neat, it doesn't look clean.
Okay.
I work for a tech company now and I see how top level C-suite people interact and what's important to them on LinkedIn and things like that. So when you come to them with a nice branding package and something stamped and looks clean, it looks very good and they're willing to that's something that they can put on their website if, hey, PBS works with this company and then they can see the Follow Suit logo, it looks good.
Nice. So today my guest is Perry Osbey and we're here to discuss the in and out of the podcast world. Okay, so how did you guys come up with your logo for your podcast?
Well, my wife just knows me. I told her I always like those logos that kind of got the two letters tied in.
Yeah.
And she knows some of my favorite colors are black and gold.
Yes.
So she kind of just took it and ran with it. And she pitched a bunch of different ones towards me to see which one I like the most.
Very nice. So other marketing tips. So you always make sure you have clean lines, great graphics. Any other tips for anybody starting a podcast?
Clear audio. It's no point in having one if they can't hear you.
Okay.
So if you're not going to invest in getting a camera crew, because I did it kind of like the extreme way.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that. You can get your own camera, but then you can go get a mic from Best Buy or Micro Center, $40, good quality microphone. And that's the most important part.
The mic. The mic is key.
Yeah, the audio. However you get your audio in, that's the most important thing.
Okay, so we can go to Best Buy to get that. Any places online that we can grab that?
Amazon, you can go on Amazon,
Okay.
Micro Center, But yeah, the snowball is what I got. It's like $40 I paid for it.
Okay, so key items. We want to have some type of visual, so have a camera and our microphone.
Yeah.
Any other items we need to get started with the podcasting?
And not really, no.
Okay.
It's the simplest thing you can use. I mean, you can do anything and get into it quickly. The main thing is just having your audio and your content. Those are the main things. And then just jumping and doing it. People will sit on it for a long time and say, I kind of want to do a podcast. I kind of want to do a podcast.
Yes.
If you want to do it, just jump into it.
And they shoot for perfection.
Yeah, you can't. No.
You just kind of got to release it and grow.
I mean, if you think about it, the things that most people relate to are real things. If it looks too scripted, you know, on my show, you'll see us stumble over words or joke and things like that. But that's natural. People feel like they're involved in the conversation themselves. So
I like that. So how often do you release a new episode?
Before I used to do it like bi-weekly, but now that I signed this streaming deal, it's a weekly thing. So they'll send me money once a month to you know, towards the podcast, and then once I get that, I'll go in and record my episodes, and then I'll try and load up on multiple episodes in advance just to stretch them out.
So you do batch recording.
Yeah.
Okay. So how did you work out that deal where it included compensation? Because before we weren't even on that. So how did it include compensation?
That's what they brought to the table for me. I didn't ask for it.
Wow. So you reached out to them via email.
Yeah. Well,
Your shot, and then
via Instagram, I reached out to them.
Instagram.
Yeah. So I started my first episode released December 14th.
Okay.
I'm one of those people, I don't like to just do it and sit on my hands. So I was researching out the gate. And since I had visuals, I reached out to them in February. And they was like, yeah, we're working some things out. We'll get back to you. I stayed put. I kept doing what I was doing. I increased my look and everything like that. Kept working on my visual. And then like 5 months after that, they reached out to me and said, hey, we love what you're doing. We've been locked in since you reached out to us. This is what we want to do. Let me know if this works for you.
Very nice. Very nice. And personally, I went in and researched and checked out some episodes and checked out the episode that I was on. You are getting great traction,
Thank you.
So much views. So how does that feel to, I mean, pretty much been from interception to idea, like a little over a year to have so much success so far?
Yeah, it hasn't even been a year yet.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
December.
Oh, yeah, December. That was, okay.
It's crazy because it doesn't even feel real. I was willingly to go with that company because my YouTube views weren't that high.
Yeah.
I get most of my views from Instagram.
Okay.
So I can control that content. But if a company does that, like I just said, I like to focus on what I'm good at.
Yes.
I don't want to go around and find key ways to learn the YouTube algorithms and all of that stuff. They specialize in that. I let them do it. So before, my most episode probably had 400 views.
Okay.
With them, my first episode had 4,000 in a week. So it's like mind blowing.
That's incredible.
I know. I'm
very
blessed.
nice. Okay, so how should someone go about building a team because I know you have your video guy, and I haven't seen a photographer when I was on set. So how does someone build a strong team? Well,
so you just want to do your research on first when it comes to, because I had a cameraman before the one I'm with now.
Okay.
And that made me realize what I really needed. It was somebody I knew locally, and I wanted to help build together. But they had their own personal things that they had to handle, and they couldn't commit to coming as frequent as we can or getting episodes prepared as frequent. So I realized I needed to get someone who wasn't a friend, who focuses strictly on, videos and editing. They don't work a regular job. So that's all they do. So they can commit the time to doing this and getting episodes pumped out whenever I needed them. So
very nice.
That was the main thing, to be able to have consistency.
Okay. How did you go about finding that person?
Well, like I said, I did music for a long time, so I always seen this guy from doing videos. For music videos, it's a little more expensive, even though it's only 3 to 4 minutes, and the podcast is an hour 20 minutes. The video for music costs way more because they have to do a lot of chopping and editing. Podcasts, I just talk, and all he has to do is make sure the lighting looks good. He doesn't have to change anything. So I just looked out. That's the first person I reached out to because I knew who he was.
Okay.
I had investors reach out to me that wanted to work with me. So they said, what did I want? What did I need? I said, I need that guy. So that's how we worked it out.
Nice. Okay, so what about if someone don't have that within their budget? What can they kind of do to have the same type of quality?
Well, if they want to get their own, if they want to have videos for their podcast, because most podcasts don't have videos.
Okay.
But if they wanted to have a video, you can get a camera from Best Buy for like $120.
Okay.
And then you can YouTube how to edit it or get the lighting that you want.
Okay, and maybe set it up on like a pod or
Yeah,
tripod.
set up a tripod. Yeah,
okay.
It's simple because I bought a camera like that too, just for like little at-home stuff if I want to like create a YouTube channel for my son or something like that. So it's not expensive to get one of those, and then you just have to learn on how to edit it yourself. But that's time consuming, and it takes away from content and all that other stuff. So it's like when I tried to do it for a minute, in that little gap, I was getting overwhelmed, and I told my wife, I'm like, hey, if this is how it's going to go, I might stop. So
okay.
I couldn't do it.
So what is your plans for the future with the podcast?
That's a great question. My plans for the future is to eventually get enough sponsors to where I strictly do podcasting. I wanted to leverage my podcast to get onto like bigger networks, like like TV shows, like on TNT, how they'll have like post NBA talk shows or any show like that. I want to leverage my podcast as like an audition tape for me to get on to a major platform, and then eventually I want to get into like movie production, kind of like how 50 Cent does with like his show, like Power and things like that. I really want to get into stuff like that. Nice.
Okay. Any final tips for someone who want to create a podcast?
Just go for it. If you have something that you're passionate about, everybody has a story. So no matter how many podcasts it is out there, there's always going to be people who want to listen. So just go for it. Like I said, with me, I wanted to show my natural personality. I feel like I'm a very people person, very people oriented. And then I got a lot to say, both whether it's funny or serious. Like I said, losing my uncle was a major thing. So I wanted to make sure I reached out to people who had mental health issues. And just make light of situations to let them know that they're not the only ones in it. And then when my aunt passed in 2020, I was actually in the hospital from COVID. I spent like 3 days in the hospital. So I missed her funeral, and I was sitting there and I was like, okay, I need to do something now. You know what I mean? I need to focus on something now. And that was like a reality check. So that's why I'm so passionate and adamant about having it. So anybody who wants to do something like this, just jump into it.
How important was bringing mental health into the podcast? Like,
it was the most important thing. In every episode, I try and bring it up some form of way. Like, I interviewed a comedian. He'll be the next episode I release. And we talked about jokes and all of that, but then I brought in how jokes can help people with their mental health. It's like I said, it's like some people, the people that you least expect to have these issues are the ones who have it the most, because they feel like they got to have the weight of the world on their shoulders, and they got to show up and be that light for everybody else, but nobody's looking out for them when they have their dark time. So
I like that.
I wanted to make sure that I focused on that.
Mental health, and I mean, it seemed like it's becoming more increasingly important to discuss it, and especially in the Black community. Let's talk about that a little bit, because I know your podcast is focused around the Black community and hearing their voice, or our voice. The Black community and mental health, it's just, we seem to have the hardest time expressing ourselves, reaching for help. So your podcast is almost like a form of therapy.
That's how I wanted it to be. Because I was one of those people who I felt like you didn't have to be so strong all the time to like to talk. You know, I have a lot of siblings. I have a big family, and I feel like you should be like, our culture, for some reason, they're embarrassed to be vulnerable.
Which I don't understand. I feel so relieved when I'm vulnerable. Like,
me too. I feel like it just feels refreshing. And then a lot of our problems, whether it's relationships or anything, can be solved if we just have that open conversation. Because you never know, like, if me and my wife were having the same issue, you never know if I was going through it and she was going through it as well. We can both easily solve it if we just talk about it. So
Right. So I'm so glad that you focused on that, because it's like one step closer to like relieving ourselves of the lack of communication within our culture. So how can viewers listen to your podcast?
So you can listen to my podcast on Apple Podcasts, iHeartMedia, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcast, your everyday podcast, and then also on YouTube under Follow Suit. I'm streaming under Black Oak TV, or you can just follow me on Instagram, and then, you know, you can find it that way.
Okay, what's your personal Instagram and the Follow Suit Instagram?
So my personal Instagram is PO_Ohio_CEO. And then the Follow Suit Podcast is just at Follow Suit Podcast.
Okay. One final question that I like to ask all of my guests, and I know you love doing philanthropist work. So what do you most want to be remembered for?
As like the one. I want to be remembered as the one who stayed true to who he is, and show people that you can make it out by being yourself. You don't have to put on a facade to, you know, impress people. Anybody who ever meets me, I'm willing to bet that they'll tell you, like, the guy that you see on the podcast is the same guy I grew up with. And that's what I strive to be, is that just the one person who made it being the way that I am and be an inspiration to other people.
I like that, and I can attest that no matter what form or situation I've seen you in, I consistently got you.
Thank you.
This one personality, this one powerful man who's trying to just be the one within his community.
Thank you.
So thank you for your work that you do in the community and just trying to inspire others. So
no problem. I appreciate it.
So, like I said, today our guest was Perry. Perry told us all about the inside and out of his podcast, Follow Suit, and how we can get started with our own podcast. So, again, I am your host, AShira Nelson, and this is Forum 360, where we have a global outlook from a local view.
Forum 360 is brought to you by John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, the Akron Community Foundation, Hudson Community Television, the Rubber City Radio Group, Shaw Jewish Community Center of Akron, Blue Green, Electric Impulse Communications, and Forum 360 supporters.